I've been playing Apex Legends for nearly 5 years and has had many different chapters of its run, from its crazy hype semi-surprise launch, getting plagued by cheaters, a resurgence of that player base through new modes with arenas, to where we are today. Interest in Apex Legends is at a historic low. Your rank means nothing, which leaves little to grind for. Skill-based matchmaking has stolen the fun from many casuals, and the ability for a new player to pick up the game is seemingly impossible. The 5-year anniversary of Apex Legends is almost upon us. Today we have my honest review, how we got here, and what needs to happen for Apex to gain some of its popularity back and move forward with its untapped potential. Apex at its core is an insanely fun game with its movement, gunplay, and variety of legends, but one of the most clear-cut and glaring problems is that Apex Legends' fun factor, or enjoyment from a casual sense, is severely lacking. Apex Legends is so highly integrated into being a team game that there is zero room in the Battle Royale for the solo player to have success, and oftentimes this can lead to a lack of player engagement, because if a casual person wants to hop on after school or work and play for an hour, then this is really not possible. Beyond the lack of support for a solo experience, Apex does not do well with a variety of different skill levels of players. As someone who plays the game for a near living but is not a pro in any sense, I can't carry my friends who play a ton less, and in turn, they don't play Apex at all anymore because 1, they can't play solo as we outlined a moment ago, and 2, if they play with me, they are getting their stuff absolutely pushed in. For many, Apex feels like a full-time job to maintain their level of skill and just not get left in the dust. This brings us to probably the biggest root cause of all of this: Apex Legends matchmaking. It is absolutely defeating. Pubs are harder than ranked due to a seemingly imbalance of teams you are on, where one sweat squad or triple stack preds can run down the entire lobby, and ranked Apex really is not even ranked anymore. Ranked and the lack of transparency is honestly one of the biggest concerns I do have when it comes to the perspective as a fan or casual enjoyer of Apex. Apex Legends since season 17 has deemed that the opponents you are going up against and your teammates' ranks are not going to be shown anymore. Hiding this is not great, and I think it has a deeper meaning than just Apex trying to protect those of less skill. It means hiding the facts, trying to protect the emotional intelligence of those who can't deal with getting beat. But at its core, Apex is a competitive game, and its nature is to have one winner and 19 losers. Hiding a rank isn't going to prevent toxicity, and it really just adds fuel to the fire, where no one actually knows anything, and if the opponents they are dying by are on their skill level, or if they are far above, because the game cannot match players appropriately. Beyond ranked, Apex Legends Battle Royale modes are severely lacking. Season 19's 3 strikes was so invigorating, and it felt insanely nice to play the game and not to have to try as hard, and to actually just enjoy the game. There's videos on my channel from 2+ years ago stating that we need more modes, and while 3 strikes was a nice 2 weeks, I'm gonna state it again: we need a permanent, rotating Apex Legends Battle Royale mode that is outside the normal duos and trios. Either way, these modes could be a way for us to experience a more casual, lighthearted Apex without the 3-stack sweat of pubs. While only 0.0001% of the player base participates in this, competitive Apex is something I need to mention. I do not love the game altering its play for the competitive or top 60 players who play the game for a living, but I do think having a comp scene is very important. This invigorates audiences, inspires players to put time in to make it to the stage and compete with these top players. Nearly every major org, with the exception of a few, have pulled from Apex due to a lack of support and revenue sharing. Why can't we get skins with split revenue sharing so teams can support players, players can support pros and the orgs? It's so simple, but those on top seem to be shying away from this. If this does keep happening, who knows what the end game is going to look like. Having these big moments is honestly more important than you may think, because it keeps everyone somewhat interested and engaged with the game, even if they aren't playing at that very moment and they are taking a break. And on its own, this is all just free advertising. There's a lot of problems we have gone over, but the one thing I think is the most concerning: Apex Legends is kind of just the same game as it was 5 years ago. We queue up into the same trios playlist, same ranked playlist, we play with a lot of the original or same characters, same maps, absolutely the same weapons. There's just a few new characters and maps, but really, the game has never changed. Having a consistent feel to your game is very nice and definitely needed, but what this does is that someone who has been playing the game for a long time has maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of hours in game with a specific legend, maybe even specific weapons, and when little Timmy comes into play for the first time, he's gonna get absolutely stomped because XX Sweatlord XX has been using and practicing with the same unchanged legends and weapons for years. Straight up, there's a lack of risk to try new things, and because content release or drip has also been cut and slowed down, it does put Apex in a very tough spot. This brings us to the 2023 content wrap up. This year was absolutely the least content filled year we have ever had. Big highlights of 2023 are honestly far and few. The most notable is the recent introduction of cross progression, and while everyone does want this, it doesn't do anything to the gameplay. It's something that we were just promised for 3 years, and it took way too long to get. We had 2 legends come in, Ballistic, who is very underwhelming and rarely used, and Conduit, who is definitely a viable playmaker. So we had 1 semi-meta changing legend in 365 days. The weapon meta had some small adjustments. We went from our 301 legends to the Nemesis and Hemlock, although the latter has already been on top of the meta in the past. The SMG meta is unchanged, and even though all these guns have gotten nerfs after nerfs, for nearly 5 years now, we continue to spam the R99 and Car SMG into oblivion. The map changes were limited. For the first time ever, 2022's Broken Moon, or the new map for that previous year, saw no updates post-launch or in 2023. We had some welcomed World's Edge changes with some Stormpoint updates as well, which for me, the SP updates really are the most memorable of the year. So even the landscape that we are playing on is pretty similar to what it has been for the last handful of years. There were a few modes to come into Apex this year, with the mixtape being a nice addition to a perma, more casual playstyle, but it's not what Apex is really known for, and 3 Strikes is absolutely the only memorable Battle Royale LTM that we have gotten probably in the last 2 to 3 years. Ever since the 4 LTMs that we were going to get to play in the middle of Season 8, LTMs have been very sparse, probably due to a lack of risk again to actually release a polished and unbuggy event or LTM mode. You know what there was a lot of? Cosmetic and collection events. Before we go over some things Apex could do to reinvigorate their audiences, it's important to know what made Apex so popular to begin with. I mean, the game launched in a stellar state and quickly fell off, but it managed to gain a lot of traction over the following 2 years from its launch. 2021 specifically saw such a massive resurgence, which means this year was also the most popular the game has ever been since its release, and that is almost still the case 3 years later. In short terms, Apex peaked a long time ago. To begin though, Apex saw new maps. Other battle royales like Warzone and Fortnite didn't really have the same cadence of map release where we would come to expect a new map every year. This just wasn't really done in the past. On top of this, there were new weapons, LTMs, map adjustments, and a ton of content getting into the game. If you didn't play the first couple years of Apex, there were over 20 limited time modes that were original, unique, and oftentimes buggy, but at least it was something. All this kind of culminated with the Arenas mode that came out in May of 2021, or Season 9, which was crazy 10 seasons ago as of the posting of this video. This would end up being a failure in the eyes of most and Respawn themselves because they removed it, and I think the lack of support or tweaks to this mode is really what did it in. It was kind of just drop Apex guns, legends into a 3v3 one life format, when in reality, I think Respawn needed to tweak abilities, guns, and the game mode as a whole to fit the specific mode. It honestly could have been bigger than the Battle Royale if it was done right. Beyond the insane amount of content we were getting, Apex Legends' 3 core pillars have been the guiding force: movement, gunplay, and legends. All of these things the game does insanely well, and I truly believe there's very few to no other modern FPS game that feels as good to move around in and shoot your weapon. Prior to the last 18 or so months, the legends were always unique and interesting new additions to the game. I think in the more recent seasons, we either just don't get legends or they really don't do much to change the game. But even outside of this, and you want to know the one thing that made Apex so successful, and I'm not saying Apex is a bad game on its own, its competition did not really exist. Fortnite was on a downward spiral, Warzone was down very badly, and other competitors like PUBG, maybe even Super People, had been out of the game for a while or just did not really click anymore. Today we have recently launched Warzone 3, Fortnite OG had a historically popular month, Fortnite Chapter 5 has been released, and there are a ton of other shooter games that are getting players out of Apex. This is of course fine, it's good to play new games and try other games, but less people playing Apex means less sales, and we know from history, less sales means cuts, and cuts means less content. Giving criticism, in my eyes, never really feels right unless you can actually give a little bit of hope or advice on maybe how that thing being criticized can be improved. So what is Apex gonna look like in the future? Well, let me lay it out for you. I'll start by saying that being a game dev is definitely a brutally difficult job. There's a lot of demands from timelines, making employees happy, making the investors happy. I get it. Timelines and content is being planned sometimes over a year in advance, maybe 18 months or even longer depending on the item being touched. So even if the road and path has been corrected for the past 6 months, maybe even a year, it could still be months or even years before we see the results of the ship turning. History always repeats itself, but what are we going to get in 2024? Well, 4 seasons seems likely at 90 days or so apiece. No new map in 2023 basically guarantees a new map in 2024. I actually could see this new map maybe coming in the spring rather than the fall, which would be kind of cool. Otherwise, basic tweaks to legends and weapons, more heirlooms and events that are probably more or less just cash grabs. Other than this, what else is going to happen? Maybe a weapon, couple legends, and that's kind of it for the next year of Apex if we do look at the past year of content. I hope this isn't the case. I hope we do get more content, maps, map adjustments, surprise events. I do kind of like that there's icon events. We have one with Final Fantasy coming up. We had the one with Post Malone. I think these are a W as a whole, but I don't want these to be spammed in Apex. We definitely don't want too much of this where Apex kind of loses its specific and unique character to the Titanfall universe. What we really need for Apex Legends though is a content bomb. This trickle or really basic content every 90 days, it's just not going to cut it. We need a season that goes mega hard, and I'm not talking about one legend, a season with multiple legends, multiple weapons. I'm actually all in for removing, say, half of the current weapons from Apex Legends, maybe bringing in 5 to 15 new weapons at once. If we want new experiences, I think this is one of the only ways to do it. You can keep the guns in mixtapes so players can still get to experience them and use their skins, and of course, you just start to rotate the weapons in and out of the meta to make the game more varied and unique every season. I don't think you can do this as much for legends, but I am going to say it. Give every legend another ability, maybe tweak every ability in the game, change things substantially for the better. You don't have to lose that specific legends or characters, unique characteristics, but definitely a lot of legends need to be changed. Maybe give everyone Horizon's passive ability so movement gets more fluid and fun for all. These are the kind of tweaks, tests, and adjustments I would like to see. If it doesn't work, take stuff back, revert, and at least you can say you tried it out rather than being dull, boring, stale, and leaving it the same as it's always been. We can't go on any longer with the same Horizon spam meta that we have been in for seemingly forever. Beyond this, we need more Battle Royale modes. As already discussed, rotating Battle Royale permanent experience similar to Mixtape would be amazing. 3 strikes and really the competition makes it glaringly clear that this game will not survive with just pubs and ranked in their current form. It's not enough to bring players back daily. Maybe tweak 3 strikes and bring in a second chance mode where if you do get fully eliminated, you respawn in the air and you get the chance to come back to the ground. Beyond this, if Apex is so against adding solos, which I think would do well in the game's current environment, at least add a mercenary mode where only solo players can queue randomly into trios matches to increase the fairness for these players. It could be a select on and off box, much like no fill is already for trios and duos. I already mentioned this, but I think Apex packs do need to go. They are definitely dated. I get that they are deeply tied in with heirlooms and events, but it's got to change, and I think tweaking the system would be kind of nice so we have a real shop with skins that we actually want and not some random RNG pack hoping we get the one we want. Collection events come out with 12 purple items and 12 gold items. For the most part, all of the purple items are generally stuff that people do not want to pick up, and a lot of the gold items as well are stuff that you don't want. So if you spend $160, you're probably spending 100 to 120 on items that you don't really care for, which is absurd. Content drip needs to be more regular. It needs to feel less like a cash grab. Yes, events have happened a ton lately. There's 4 times more cosmetic events to get sales, but seemingly we get a ton less updates to the game with arguably having 4 times increase in sales. We used to get town takeovers every mid-season. These are gone. We used to get a new map every year. This didn't happen in 2023. We used to get a new legend every season. We now have only gotten 2 in the last year. We used to get a new weapon every season or every other season. We had a span of a year where we got a new weapon every season. From Season 8's 30-30, Season 9's Bowcheck, Season 10's Rampage, Season 11's Car SMG. We now have only had one, the Nemesis Burst AR, in the past 8 seasons. I love the weapon pool, and I don't want to make it crazy broken, but I mean, how long do we need to use just the same 5 or so weapons? A new weapon every season was maybe a little much at times, but there's no doubt it made the game exciting as engagements were more varied and different than they were in the previous season. If there's anything to take away from this video, it's going to be my next point. We need to look at other games and of course the competition. Fortnite and Warzone, love them or hate them, it's not the point of this video. They've gone beyond the Battle Royale. These games have franchises and have created ecosystems in their games. Call of Duty has multiplayer, campaign, zombies, and Warzone, so no matter the player, you can hop on and play something different. Fortnite now has 0 builds, a racing type mode, Lego Fortnite, creative to make maps, creative to play a variety of game modes, not to mention they also just released some sort of Guitar Hero-esque mode. Not saying Apex has to do all of these, but you get the point. And these games, of course, are not perfect and they're not for everyone, but you know what Apex Legends has? Battle Royale. In a very, in comparison, mangled multiplayer mode with mixtape. There is just not enough content for players to continue to play and come back to. The game has not evolved. We could be rocking Apex Legends BR, Titanfall BR with Titans on huge scaled maps, maybe a pilot-only BR with wall running, Titanfall multiplayer, Titanfall campaign, and Apex or Titanfall open world with its rich history of lore and different factions. I can't believe we have not changed at all in 5+ years, and we literally have the blueprint and foundation materials on site, and we just seemingly are not building anything. Like, what are we doing? This has all been kind of doom and gloom because honestly, I just love the game. It changed my life. This is a fact for me. But at the end of it, Apex is going to probably be around for a while. It has amazing core gameplay. We just need to evolve. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.